Hello and welcome to the channel. So we've got one of these Bush RP20 record players on the bench today. Now I have built some of these on the channel before, but I wanted to build this one and just go into a bit more depth on how I do these. So these record players are from the late 1950s, from about 1957 up until about 1960, and then they changed this red or dark red changes to chocolate brown, and the tweed disappears off this type of tweed covering that they've got. These are the best ones really because they look great, although I quite like the chocolate ones as well. The turntable we've already partly removed, you can see in there, and these record players have a full chassis, and it's rare to find that in record players, and I stumbled across these by accident just looking for a small record player that looked really cool to create just a little guitar amp. So if we take off this, we can get this out. Now we're also using a different camera to film this, and it is the camera I use for online teaching when we was in lockdown, heaven forbid. And although the camera is not 4K, it's full HD, it focuses incredibly well where the 4K camera doesn't focus as well. So we just turn some light into there on that. You can see the chassis here that we're taking out, and it fastens onto this board here, and you can see all the record player gubbins. You can see the transformer there, the power transformer, the output transformer is on the other side. You can see the power cap there and things. So what we do on these is we strip out all of the components and the wiring. So from here, all of this, we just strip it all out. We leave that tube socket. We fit in on this top part here because this volume control goes. So what we do, you can't see that on there, you can. We remove this part here that you can see, and then the board goes on there, on the top side of that. So we've got to strip all of this out. Basically, we leave the voltage selector in, which you can't see but is on the top. Tubes I've already removed, and we're going to build, as I say, a 5F2A, which is a Fender Champ with a tone control. So let's look at this. We'll remove this cabinet now, and we can have a look at this in a bit more detail. So you can see the chassis there out on the bench now. We've got rid of the cabinet for the time being, and we're going to focus on how we put this together. Let's turn the chassis over and have a look what we've got. We've got a very gooey cap here that's left some gumption on there, and we will need to check that transformer to see if it's up to the job. 3 tube sockets. One is the EZ80, because this originally had an EZ80, EL84, 6BQ5, and what is that tube again? It's oh, that's not right. Does that not come out of there? Surely it must have done. Well, that's not right, because that says that says ECC83. That's not correct. It's EBC81, I do believe, that's in these. I'm sure that didn't come out of there. It looks like I've got a free yellow print 12AX7 there. Mullard yellow print. Don't think that's supposed to be in it. So it looks like someone's been having a bit of a tinker with this at some point. Not that it really matters to us, because we're just stripping it down. Everything is going to be stripped off that chassis except for the tube sockets. We're going to use a solid state rectifier. We're not using the EZ80. Very dusty, very messy. There you can see they all have this AC97 serial number thing on there. You can see, I just hold it still. There's the voltage selector there. That will be keeping that. The pots are going, so everything's going except the voltage selector and the tube sockets, obviously the transformers. Right, I've cleaned all the chassis up now, and you can see we've got options there. Looking quite clean. Some more lighting on here. So how we're going to do this then? So these are the choice of the boards. We've got this one here, the Vox one, and I normally fit those there. And that, just turn that around. And that works really well because the tube socket's here, the preamp tube socket. It leaves plenty of room for capacitors and such like over here. But the other option, turn it round, is to fit this Champ turret board, which obviously looks much nicer and is much better. So two problems facing us with this. One is we'd have to lose the voltage selector. That's no big deal. And the other thing is the tube socket, the preamp tube socket, is underneath. But we could raise that, and again, as I said, not ideal, but we could raise that. Now it also covers this socket here on this, which is the output tube socket, but it does. We could probably somehow mount that over that screw, maybe somehow there, raise it so that screw goes through there. That bolt there is, yeah, holds onto there. Just looking at that, so we could probably do that now. Although we've lost the output tube socket hole, we've got the socket that we had for the hole for the rectifier tube, the EZ80, and we're not using that rectifier tube. So it is possible we could, if we could just get that on there and lift that up, I think that would work, you know. And it is much better. The thing with this is I can get the capacitors on and everything on there, all on that board then. Right, so we've got this built up, and I've abandoned the other camera. Just wasn't working out, so we've gone back to this one. So I'll show you how I've put this together. Got a different output transformer there from the one we had, a much bigger one. It's one that I use on various projects, but I've decided to use it on this one. I've propagated this board, but I've not soldered anything up. I've got all the capacitors, and the capacitors aren't on there for the coupling caps there. We've got all this done. We've got the capacitors on there. I mounted this turret board on nylon bolts. These are M5 bolts, and the reason that they're nylon is that these bolts here, or if they were metal bolts, the nuts would be touching or extremely close to there, so we'd have a dead short. So we couldn't be having that, so we've used these nylon, and they're great. I use these all the time, these nylon nuts and bolts. And basically what I've done, if I'll just take this off so you can see, we've just got 4 bolts in here, 4 nuts to take off of there, one at the back here, like so. So if we just take that off, you can see we've got M4, sorry, the M5s are there. We've got a nut on the just use something to point with. Got a nut on there, and that's what I do with these, is I just pour some super glue around them. It rolls into the threads, and they don't move again, and they don't need, obviously they don't need to move again. So, and then what I've done is leveled, got 4 nuts to sit the board on, leveled them up, and then again we glue around those so they don't move, and then the board just sits on top. We've got the preamp tube socket there, and that's a shrouded one, as you can see on there. We just use the original tube socket hole. We've got the original output tube socket hole under the board. We've used the rectifier tube socket for the output tube, because remember we're having solid state rectification. So he just goes on there like that. We've got this board, and I just need to cut these nylon, just cut through them with a hot blade to cut them short. But this is just a tag board, and I've took every other tag out because we're going to mount the AC here. We're going to have a fuse there, AC coming in. Now the AC goes in and then goes up to the switch, which will be on the cabinet, which actually mounts on the edge of the lid, and then there'll be a return wire coming down live there, and then that brings our live back onto the back to the amplifier there from the switch. So we'll have AC coming in through this. We've got this gland on here that we've put in, so the AC will come through there to that point there. Just bring this closer, and then it will go through the fuse up to the switch, back down from the switch, connect there, and then this blue wire is the feed from the transformer. The AC feed will go there on that bottom one. The other two are for the negative, same deal. Neutral coming out from the outlet, power outlet, goes through there up to the switch, and then returns back to the switch and the transformers there. We're going to have to put some jumpers across there, just keeps it nice and tidy doing it that way. What else? So yeah, so this side here, those 4, and then this one here will be for the DC. So the AC will, because this is actually half wave rectification. The ground for the filaments and the AC is sheared rather strangely enough, but that's how it doesn't show that on the schematic very well, but it actually is on here. Been through all this transformer and tested it thoroughly. So because I was obviously there's no centre tap, so I'm thinking I can put a bridge on it, but I can't put a bridge on it. So we just, and it was half wave rectification before. I know it had an EZ80, but it was just, there's just one feed coming out to the, and then wired to both anodes of the EZ80. So we're just going to use one diode, and it'll be fine. I've tested it, and we've got about 377 volts DC before this is loaded down. So we've got quite a lot of DC really. One diode that just goes in there like so, and then we connect AC. DC comes off of there, then we're running it back down here into a fuse, and then out of the fuse, and then to the center tap and the caps, whatever. That's basically how we're doing that. These are the 4 that are left are for the speakers. The secondaries on the output transformer and the speakers. What components have I used on here on this board? Well, we've got the usual Champ deal going on with everything, but I have changed the drop-in resistors somewhat, because obviously we're only using the Champ circuitry, we're not trying to build a Champ clone. So we've got a different output tube for a start. We are using a 1k resistor to drop from node 1 to node 2, and then we've got 2.2k dropping down to the preamp tube. so we're going to have quite a fair bit of voltage on there, where I think these two are, can't remember now whether it's 10k and 22k on a Champ. So that's how I've done that. I've got 30 microfarad, 30 microfarad and 30, that would end up being 33 because that was all I'd got that would fit in there. It's a bit narrow, these caps are a bit chunky. Now I did have a couple of 47s in here at 350 volts working, and the cap that came out of it was 350 volts working. But I always check, I always wire these up to the variac and test them thoroughly, and I jump everything up together, and when I switched this on DC after being rectified and smooth, I'd got 377 volts, which means I'd gone over the working volts of these capacitors. Now when this amp's up and running and conducting, that would obviously drop below 350, but you know, that for me is not right. You should never exceed these caps, not even, I mean, how long would it take this amp to warm up? 15 seconds, 20 seconds, probably 15 seconds, but you know, for those 15 seconds those caps are 25, well, there was 27 volts over, and so every time someone switches this on they're going to get 27 volts too much. So I've changed them and put these in. These are 500 volt working, so I'd only got 30s in these, so I just put them in, but they'll be fine. They only, I mean, the Champ had what, 16 in before that, and if you, I don't, it's up to everybody what they do with these, but remember we're only using the circuit. But I don't like the background hum on these low capacitance circuits where you've just got like 16, 16 and 8, so it makes them quieter. But everybody has their own thing. Some people say it makes the sound too stiff. I don't mind that. It's all down to personal taste. So I always say to people, whatever you want to put in and you're happy with, then go for it. So that's it, we're ready to wire this up now. Right, I've got this thing built up more or less now. So just going to show you, go through and show you what I've actually done. So we've added a board here because we needed to get the power and everything to this Champ board. So we've got all the layout done on the Champ here. We've wired up underneath for the 6N2P. There's just a grid to go on because we've got no volume control, because obviously that's going on the cabinet. Got our transformer wired up, we've got the tube socket wired up there. So we've got the grounds there for the filaments, and the transformer ground is there, and the ground for the caps on the power stage of this amp, the output stage, nodes 1 and 2. And then we've got another ground here, you can see, because we split the grounds. That's for the preamp section, the grounds for the cathode resistor, and so on, and the ground for the jack socket, and the ground for the volume will also be connected there. We've got the fuse holders in, you can see here. We look in, we've got the mains fuse, and we've got the HT fuse over there. So we've got 750 milliamps for the power fuse and 300 milliamps for the 350 milliamps for the HT fuse on this. There's our diode in there, you can see the diode. So where do we stand with this now? Well, what I'm going to do with this now is I'm going to pop it in the cabinet, and we're going to measure up the wires up to the lid where the switches and the jack socket and volume controls and tone controls are going to be, and then we're going to take it out again. We're going to wire that tone control, but that volume control, we'll wire the tone later, wire the volume control, and we're going to run this up on the variac and current limiter and get it on the scope, just make sure we've got no issues with it. So that's basically it, and I'm quite pleased because I've managed to get a Champ board to fit into these chassis, where previously we've used these type of boards. Right, we've got this rigged up. I've just got a small speaker on it to start off with. I've got volume control on this cable you can see here, which I've measured out up to the lid, so I know I've got the right length. It's a little bit longer, but we've just tacked that on for the time being. This cable here is a 4-strand cable, 4-core. Cut one of the cores off. We've got one for the jack socket, and we've got one for the wiper and one for the other side of the volume there. So we are going to fire this up now, just see what voltages we've got, make sure everything's okay, and then we're going to get it on the scope. So there's no tubes in it at the moment, so we're just going to put a dribble of voltage through it, and we are going to just see, make sure we've got no shorts. We've got the current limiter on, and we're just going to put a dribble of voltage in and just see where we are, make sure everything's connected up as it should be. So I've got 18 volts, 19 volts on the variac. Let's see what we've got. 39. It's looking good. It's looking good. So it's working my way down the nodes. So here's node 1, and you can see on the meter there, can you see that meter on there? We've got 39 volts. 39 volts on node 2, and we'll have roughly the same volts on all the nodes because we're not drawing any current. We've got 39 volts on node 3. We've only got 3 power nodes. So now we need to move across to the plate resistors. We've got 39 volts on the plates, on the plate resistors. Let's go the other side on each separate plate. 38 volts, 38 volts. So both of the plates on the preamp tube are working okay. Let's see what else then. So now we need to move over to the output tube. So green on there is the plate of the output tube. Yep, and we've got voltage there. So 39 there. What we got on the screen? Screen is pin 8. So pin 9, pin 8. Yeah, we got 39 volts on the screen, grid 2. Right, I've just checked the filament voltages there as well. So this CV4055 tube that we're using has a maximum plate voltage of 300 and a maximum screen voltage of 300, and it is 12 watts dissipation is its max, and according to the data sheet that says absolute, which means that, see that now, which means we can't really go over those. So we've got 78 volts there, plate voltage. Just get this volume pot here that we've got on the wire just to get us away, and we're up to 92 volts now, and you can see the plate voltage is going up. We're just going to sit at 100 volts. Just see what's happening. So we've got 155 there. Let's just go down to here to this plate, and we've got 104. So it looks like we're conducting. Don't hear any sound, but we are conducting. And we have sound. Not very much yet, but then we've not got very much voltage. We're just taking it steady with these caps as well. Now we're drawing 40 milliamps, 50 milliamps, up to 120 volts. What's that? That's it, so the volume's down now. See what happens. Right, so we've got 136 volts. That to me sounds like a tube. It does. It's not the preamp tube that's causing that. Let's just try another one. That could be a faulty tube. Wouldn't have thought so, but you never know, do you, with new tubes. Right, let's go again. Not sure what's causing that. Some kind of ground issue, but not to worry, although it's a lot quieter than the other tube. It's quiet now, so maybe it's just this cable. It is this cable. We'll worry about that later when it's all in its case. So let's just, so 175 and 170. That, check that again. 179, 176. Well, we've got more voltage on the plate, on the screen, than the plate, so that resistor needs to be increased. The drop on the transformer is greater than the drop on the resistor, so that will have to be changed. But this is why we test things. I mean, there's not much difference between them. But 206, 211, so there's too much. Right, let's come up some more. We're now doing 110 milliamps. Right, so now I'm just going to see what's going across the resistor, cathode resistor, 6 volts. And the cathode resistor is 220, so we're just going to have a quick look just to see what current is being drawn now. So remember, we've got a 220 ohm resistor in there. Got a volts drop of 6 point blur, whatever, near enough, 6.3, and we're going to divide that by 220, so we've got 28 milliamps going on there. So we know from that we're well inside. So let's go up some more. So we need to measure the screen now as we go up to voltage, because we don't want that screen going over 300 volts. It's looking pretty good. See what we've got there, 273. Volts. 300 volts at 232. That's what we got on. Let's have a look what we've got on the plate. 296. So I'm just going to go. Yeah. So we can just about get away with that tube, I think. Right, so I'm just going to bring that. That's near enough. Right, that's where we're at then. So we're at 235 volts on the variac, and we're up to 300 volts on that tube. So let's just see what's going across the cathode resistor now. 8.9 we've got going across there. So there's a total of 40 milliamps being drawn there. So if we take away 5% for the screen, 38 milliamps. That sounds about right to me, you know. So let's test the plate to cathode voltage and see what we've got. And we're 297. Is 11.28 watts. So that's pretty good. So you see, if we look on the first node, we've got 303, 304. We look on the second node, we've got 295 there. So we have got less voltage on the second node than the first, and the second node feeds the screen. But the voltage going through the output transformer is dropped, coming back to the plate from the primary of the, going through the primary of the output transformer has dropped lower than the screen has. Some transformers you hardly see a drop of voltage, just look at the draw on there. 250 volts. So we drop there, yeah, 250 volts there on the third node. We've got on the plates 136, 159. Oh dear, that's a bit of a difference. 137, 160. Don't know what's going on there. That should be roughly the same. So we may have to look at that tube as well. Although it's a brand new one, it doesn't appear to. Something's not balanced there. Right, so we've made a few changes. We've got CV4043, which is 6BW6. We had more voltage on the screen than we did on the plate, about 11 volts, and that won't do. So we've snipped out that 1K resistor, and we've now got in a 3.9K resistor, and that has got us to about 4 volts less on the screen now than we've got on the plate, which is fine. So 4 or 5 volts, so we're there with that. And really that's just because this output transformer is dropping a bit more voltage than we expected. So we've balanced that up, so that's fine. We've biased the amp at 13.15, and the maximum dissipation on this tube is 13.2. The plate voltage is way under, because we're 350 is the max, 310 on the screens. There we're below that, so we're about 280 volts. So we're fine, absolutely fine. So this tube will run perfect. The only thing we've got to keep an eye on is this transformer to see how hot it gets. Making sure if we may have to reduce if it gets too hot. It's not too bad at the moment. We're drawing 190 milliamps off the mains power. So that's pretty good. All looks good really. And this is running really healthy. So since we've swapped to this CV4055, with that humming problem, that the buzzing problem we had has gone away. So it must be something, although this pin out's the same on both these tubes, there must be something that I'm missing there, but I'm not delving into it too deeply because I'm not using that tube and we've got this running. Now if I ground the input, you can see we've got no hum whatsoever, just the white noise there. So a little bit of frying though, so I don't know whether that's that preamp tube, so I have to check that. But there we go, that's pretty good. That slight humming now is because the lead for the jack, we've got no jack plug on there, so we've got no grounding going on, so that so there we go. So that's all looking good, very good indeed, and that's running quite healthy from what we can see on there. So you can see I've got the measurement up there, and we've got 16.8 peak to peak. 16.8 peak to peak. Divide by 2 times 0.707. We square that, and then we divide that by 8, and we are getting 4.4 watts out of this. Clean 4.4 watts. If it's cranked flat out, 7.1 cranked. My word, that's a fair bit of output coming out of there. Well, that's what the maths say. So, but of course that would be an overdriven sound. It wouldn't be clean. But it's got some there's some kick coming out of there. Right, just having a look in here, and you can see I've put the switch in and the pilot light, and I've put this insulation around the switch, and this is really important. It's one thing doing these projects, you know, and they're great fun, but you know, you still have to take safety into consideration. So this is now covered over here. So what's the danger with this more than anything? Well, if I just bring this down now, so if someone opens this lid and they flick the thing off, push the fingers under there, you can see straight away if they're not insulated. The worst part is that if they put both hands through, and they put this hand on here and the other hand on the switch, they've made a connection to ground, because the grounds on the back of the parts will create a circuit through both of your hands. So be careful when you know, if you're doing these type of things, just take a while to think about, you know, how safe it's going to be. It's took me a while to you know, to do all of this. It's extra work, but it has to be done. So we've covered off that, and no one's going to get a bite off it. So the next thing we've got to do, and you can see the pilot lights in there, still waiting for the jack socket on account as I ordered the wrong one, and I've now had to order another one, and that's not arrived yet. Customer wants chocolate brown knobs on instead of gold, so we've got to change those as well. So if we look, we've still got these to wire up on here. We've got this wire coming in there, so we've got to bring that up, wire to the tone stack. You can just about see it's a bit awkward where it's placed, and then we get that wired up, get us jack socket in, and we're about finished. Right, all finished. So just go through some of the things we've done. So we've changed those knobs now to the chocolate brown ones, which is what the customer wanted. We've added the jack socket in there, and I have made a few changes on this amp, on the circuitry and so on. Not much, but didn't like the sound of it as much. It had got a lot of overdrive, it really was driving. So I swapped the 6N2P for an ECC85. I don't know what that would be in your American numbers. The 6, you sort of start with a 6, a lot of your tubes, but you look that up if you don't know. ECC85. So basically it's the same pin out as a 6N2P, but it's got a mu of 57 as opposed to 100, and that helped no end. I've altered the negative feedback to clean it up some more, so I dropped the resistor to 10k from 22. I've added a 220k grid stopper into the second stage, and I've also added a 470k grid leak resistor on there, and that's got things sounding pretty good. So let's just flick the lid up and look inside, so you can see now we've got all the cable in, the tone stacks in there, and you can see we've got these holders for the cables there on both sides there. Close that down. Got our lovely vintage Fender grill cloth on there, which I think just fits perfectly with this unit. And of course I've got the Bush badge on there, so what we do is, you can see where that went. If we look there, that's where the badge was, look, and what we do is we gently prise that off and we glue it onto there, and that makes it complete. So the only thing to do now is to have a listen, see what it sounds like. We've got an extension socket on the side, so we can try it on the 4x12 as well as, well, it'll be 2x12 because it's 8 ohms, so this cab's stereo, so it'll be on the two of the 12s, but that'll be fine for a little thing like this. And then obviously we'll try it on its own speakers as well. Right, we've got this thing ready to demo it. It'll be a pretty simple amp, so we've got it in single coil mode. See, we've got plenty of top on this tone control. So that works really well. This guitar needs refretting big time. That's it in single coil. Humbucker does tend to make this growl a bit. Still got the old saw finger. Doesn't go well sliding down the strings. So I'm on the neck pickup there. Go on to single coil. did one of these, oh, it must be above a year ago now, in fact a couple of years ago getting on, and a guy watched it recently on the channel and actually left a comment saying, I wonder what it would sound like with some pedals. So I thought we'll give it a try with 1 or 2 pedals, just see what it is like. So this belongs to the customer who's actually buying this amp from me, and this is a rumble seat. Got my glasses on, struggling to read it. And this is a digital delay on there. There's a drive on it. It's just like a little multi-effects and a reverb as well on there. So we're going to give this a try first. Right, so we've got this rumble seat thing going on here. And this is not half bad. Rusty at the old Travis picking. Like that anyway. Unfortunately now with this arthritis I've got in my thumbs, that's one of the styles that I really struggle with. It just absolutely burns after a couple of minutes. It's one of the styles I've really let go over the years because of the arthritis there. So I've got osteoarthritis in my thumbs basically in both of them. I've had them x-rayed, so I can, most of the other finger picking I'm fine with, but Travis picking, struggle with it. But never mind, I've got plenty of other styles of guitar to play. So that's a pretty good pedal and that works really well in this amp. So let's just, and you can switch these in individually. Let's see what this drive does. With that. drive, but that sounds okay. Nice raw tone that. Let's just see what this reverb's like on its own. Glasses on. Style that I've let go. So it's a bit painful when you catch the strings on that. It keeps making me stop playing for a second or two. It's so there. Let's try an overdrive pedal on it then, shall we? In fact, we've still got those 4 pedals that we did on the video, which didn't go down very well at all. I don't think most people like Chinese pedals, but right. So we're going to try one of these Sapu pedals. This vintage distortion, which is a rip-off of Tube Screamer. That's it. So all this information on these pedals I gleaned from the subscribers, because I know jack about pedals. Absolutely nothing really, because I've just not used them for years, that's all. So I'm not against using them. I've just kind of always just plugged into an amp and played, or I've had a multi-effects thing, but the single pedals in themselves I know little about, but other than they make sounds. That really hurts on those bottom strings. The problem is I use 11 to 48s. At one time I used to use 11 to 54. But with the arthritis I've dropped it down. Now I'm 11 to 48. But pulling on a 5th string there on that. It's Casa Killer. So there we go, and I think this amp, if you crank it a little bit, should also get a bit of the old blues breaker there, the old Clapton. So yeah, it cranks, it's a pretty good tool. So there we are. So sorry about that bit of a rubbishy demo there. That's what with the finger. And it's what happens to you, you see, when you start off out young as a guitarist, and you're young and you're handsome, and then your hair falls out, and then your eyesight goes, and then you get arthritis, and then you play crap for the rest of your life. But look, on the bright side, we've built a nice new amp there. So these record players are great, and we have, you know, joking aside, they're great things, and you know, you can build all sorts into them. You can find them on eBay. They're at various prices. You know, you will have to strip all the components out like I've done on this one, but you know, you've just watched me build this. I've built different ideas into them. If you know, if some of you could get one of these, build your ideas into them. So you know, you don't have to build the same as what I've built, and it's a fun thing. So you know, you order the speakers. I've got these Visiton speakers in there, which I probably didn't show in this video. I don't know whether I did or not, because I've edited some of this video a while ago. So if not, if you type in Bush RP20, some of the other videos will come up, and you better see the Visiton speakers that I used in there. And they're great little speakers, which I just stumbled on by luck really. I just ordered them and thought, I don't think they'll be very good, but I'll try them, because they're one of the few things that'll fit in, and when I tried them, they sounded great. So, and they you know, they're just like full range hi-fi speakers, really just general purpose, you know, full range speakers. Right, I've got it on the cab, on the Marshall cab. I've also got some glasses on now, so I can see what I'm doing a bit more. And you can see we've got a lot more. Obviously, it's going to be a lot louder on the foot on the cab. This thing is really loud. Remember, we've got that CV 4043 tube in there, which is a military 6BW6. That's a Brymer tube, by the way. I'll leave a link in the description to the data sheet for that tube. They're really great tubes. Let's try another guitar. So again, this reverb's okay as long as you don't put too much in. So there we go, that's listening to it on the bigger cab there. So there we go, so enough of me waffling and complaining about my bad finger and my bad eyesight. So this video is going up. I've just put the Who's and Kettner video up. That was an interesting video. And probably won't go down very well because most people on my channel don't like gadgetry of that extremity. So this is going up, and this will be going up to the same day, and possibly another video will be going up there soon. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but that'll do it. So thanks for watching, and you all take care, and I'll see you all in another video. So bye bye for now.